near misses or accidents that you'd like to share? Just to get someone wrong.
Well, up until recently, we've had several incidents where people, longtime employees, have actually incurred accidents, and it's kind of alarming because these people have been there so long, right? And it was just either complacency because they've been employed there for a long time, or just simply just poor judgment. A couple of skilled trade guys and a couple of skilled production people as well. Just simply not locking out the machine. So it's
And is this, when this happens, do you kind of do a background investigation to see if it's the first time, like it was just an overlook that time, or do you find that it's continuously happening and happening and happening, and then eventually it gets hit with an accident?
Well, with these accidents, okay, it was kind of repetitive. Okay, it was like week after week after week. Okay, I think it was just carelessness. Okay, and once the company became aware of it, they began to communicate, their concerns to the employees.
Yeah.
And
Just
get
stop,
quite serious
stop those actions. Yeah.
with the injuries and the lack of not tagging out the machine or locking out the machinery.
I like to call it dodging bullets, really, because that's what you're doing every time, and that's what the company sounds like they recognize and try to prevent it. Quit dodging bullets, because eventually one's going to hit you. And luckily, we don't get hit every time. We're always inadvertently breaking rules every day. Unfortunately, we're human. We go over the speed limit at times. We roll through a stop sign. Those are all dodging bullets. And at work, every time you don't lock it out when you're supposed to, every time you reach into the moving equipment and it doesn't get you, it's just like dodging a bullet. And eventually you get hit by it. So, any specific story? Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that comes to mind for me is we had outside contractors come in to Master Lock, and they were going to do the lighting. And this was a relatively smaller company. They went through our Lockout-Tagout, and they were up on high lifts. Routinely, we caught them without their harnesses on, hooked up, and finally it came down to us turning them in each time to our supervisors and stuff. Finally, it came down to either they do it or they're getting out of the company, because
they get that many warnings.
and they gave them number of warnings, but that's one thing you got to do. If you see something unsafe, you got to turn them in. I mean, as much as you don't, you have to. And that was, nothing happened, they were always safe, but I mean, they're up there, they should have been.
Yeah. That's exactly what we're talking about. And contractors are no exception. When they're on your site, it's your responsibility to make sure they're locking it out, because they're taking your company's safety record in their hands. And if they have an accident, it can play against your mod rate, and your workers' comp insurance can go up, and you can be paying for that accident from something you had nothing to do with. So when we give these trainings, we always encourage, if you see contractors and it's not locked out, tell them first so they don't have an accident. Tell them, get out of the machine and lock it out, and then don't leave it at that. Also, run it up the flagpole. It's your obligation to the company. It's not, you're not tattling. I mean, we get out of school and we're like, let's be friends. Let's just keep it between us. It's not good when you do that, because then they'll continue to, they'll just lock it out when they see you around, kind of thing. So we say, tell your safety manager. Let them tell that contractor's boss, and let them come down from there and say, you either lock it out or you're out of here. From a consultant's point of view, when we're on site, we abide by safety policy of that site owner. We review the safety policy when we get there, and we already have general safety practices in place. But we know if we mess up on site, we're out, even if there was no accident. Like CSX is no exception. They have an extensive training policy for their contractors, and when you go on site, you abide by their training, you abide by their rules, or you're out. You could be fined. They have a really good system for that. You could be fined, which is really good at encouraging contractors to comply, or you could be your whole company could never be allowed to come on CSX property again. So that's something that I don't know if you feel drives safety from the corporation to the contractors, or.
Well, I think it does. And, what kind of company would we be if we allowed anybody to come on our property and didn't expect to hold the same high standards to a contractor that we do our own employees? We live and die by our safety every day on the railroad, and people don't want to do business with a company that can't perform work safely. And so we got to hold that same high standard to contractors when they come on the property.
What is CSX's policy? What do they say about safety? Safety is a way of life.
Yeah, that's one of our core values.
And they bring it home. They even have conferences especially designed for contractors to reward, encourage, and collaborate safety knowledge. They go above and beyond
We
regulation.
spent the money for a special contractor training video, so that, you know, when they come on the property, they have to watch this video and be, you know, job briefed on every move they make basically on the property, and make sure they have all the appropriate safety apparel and follow all the rules. Just shy of safety certification. We certify every employee every year in safety, and it's almost to that point now, even with contractors.
We're good. Any other stories you want to share with the group? Think we could benefit from? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a work injury once. I had the machine locked out, and we got 2 light machines in a department.
You were personally injured?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
personally injured. We had 2 light machines in the same department. And when you're setting it up, we have a motor with a brake on it. You release the brake so you can manually turn the flywheel to watch the parts get hit by the punch or die or whatever. And then the one machine, I've done it thousands of times, you know, over there, setting it up, you know, and this one had like maybe a quarter turn and it would stop, where the new machine I'm setting up, it don't have that. You could just keep turning it over. Well, I turned it over, slipped off, and then my hand hit a block that was there, and it just pinched my pinky, almost ripped it off. And they stitched it up pretty good. And it's still
In the
there.
end, what did they determine was the root cause, or how did they prevent it? Did they
They came out,
relate
yeah,
to
and,
lockout?
well, they made up a new bar that would restrict it from going any farther.
New guarding region?
Yeah. So they did fix the problem after the injury.
Yeah, and a lot of times the accidents that happen while using the equipment is just the nature of the job. It's a dangerous job, and lockout isn't going to be what protects you. It's going to have to be machine guarding or your due diligence of knowing there are hazards here, there's moving equipment, and I'm not going to put my hands in there unless it's fully locked out and de-energized. So lockout will protect you, but it's not always going to be that performance thing that gains you safety and productivity. So applying a lockout every time you did that specific task would have been impractical, if I'm wrong, right?
No, it was locked out. It's just we have the manual brake release where you can release it and turn the flywheel by hand,
okay.
even though it's locked out.
Oh, I see.
It just
And then
can't
just that
fire
momentum,
up.
that inertial momentum of that
Yeah.
movement? Okay. I guess not underestimating that kinetic energy. Good. Any other stories or comments?
We had an injury just this year. A gentleman was operating a snow blower, and you talk about kinetic energy. He actually he didn't, you know, and I know you talked about equipment, and we don't really look at equipment a lot of times as far as Lockout-Tagout. I don't think we do it as, I know what you guys have done for us has been on our machinery, but not so much every piece of equipment, right?
Right. It's mainly
But this was a snow blower.
Yeah.
Some you'd use at home. And this guy it had gotten plugged. Wasn't kicking it out the discharge tube. So he didn't turn the machine off, but he disengaged everything. But he didn't think about the kinetic energy still going with that paddle inside. So he sticks his hand inside to try to unclog the snow, and it tears the tip of his finger off.
We've been to one of our clients too. We did that a couple years back.
That kinetic energy got him.
He's lucky to pull it in too, because sometimes
Yeah.
they pull you into it and they really
And it was just free spinning,
Yeah.
but it was enough to nick off part of his finger.
And you think about the momentum, the blade you're talking about is the dual stage, right? Pulls it in and then shoots it out, so it's
Yeah.
the second blade. That's a really small, lightweight blade, but it's connected to a motor. It's connected to a shaft. It's connected to a lot of mass. All that mass has rotational energy that takes a long time and a lot of energy to stop. So that's a great lesson to be learned. So
I mean, that's even for
instances,
home
pick
application.
one up. You
A lot
know,
of people use them up
I
here.
embarrassingly myself almost fell victim of a lockout incident at home. I was jacking up my car to change the tires and followed all the protocol, put the blocks in the tires, and then after driving it was my wife's car. Driving it around the block, I realized I didn't torque down the front left. So I brought it home, jacked it up, didn't block the tires out, and then I noticed the van starting to move. And I released the jack real quick, and I'm like, I did it myself. You get focused on the task. You know, it's something a little bit out of routine because I already knew when you change the tires, you block the other tires. I knew exactly what I was supposed to do, but then something additional happened, something out of the ordinary, And that's when it gets you. That's when you're taken out of your element, you're really focused on the problem. And that's when people with experience get complacent. You know, they think it's a simple task, and that could have been, you know, the car could have rolled on me, could have rolled out and hit the garage door and done a lot of damage to the car and the door. So, simple act of just, you know, checking yourself and always trying to realize that there's other energies present, that there's potential always there, and just keeping diligent. That's the only way to be safe and stay safe.